Welcome back to the Compass. My name's Derek McPherson. I'm executive chairman of Olive Resource Capital. And with me, as always, is President, CEO, and CIO of Olive, Sam Pelez. We're recording today's episode on Wednesday, August 5th. It's about 9:12 a.m. before the market opens. I don't know which way bombs are flying today, or drones or whatever it is, but I'm sure the one thing I could say for certain today about the trading, well, the way the market's going to trade, is that there'll be some volatility. I'm pretty certain of that, which pretty much is the theme for the month of July. So, Sam, I mean, by the time this episode airs, we'll have published our July. Olive will have published its July investment update. Why don't you give us a quick rundown on what happened for Olive in the month, and then I guess maybe talk a little bit about broader market and what's going on there.
Yeah, definitely. So the investment portfolio value for July was down just over 1%. Call it in the market where volatility is so high, being down 1% can be considered flat month and month. The More generally, what happened in July was a continuation of what we saw during the first half of the year. Oil was the best performing commodity for the month. It rebounded on the restart of aggression in the Strait of Hormuz. Copper continues to be the leading metal, climbing to the year's highs. This has a lot to do with the warehouse supplies and the inventories in China that have been drawn to a greater extent than the market expected. In addition to, as we've discussed in previous episodes, some supply dynamics with production down most of the major mines in Chile, and generally several issues around major mines around the world. So, good short-term to medium-term dynamic there in supply demand. Precious metals were up after being down for quite a few months. This is mainly because the US dollar did a pretty strong round trip. It went beyond the resistance level, but ultimately towards the end of the month, it declined and ultimately failed to climb over the resistance level. I think that bodes well for all commodities as we go into August and September. We tend to be, positive in terms of performance. Q4 being, sort of like negative after that. One thing that's important to note is that even though all the commodities were up, in general, the equities underperformed slightly, and in the case of precious metals, a lot of equities were actually down on the month, whereas the commodity was up on the month. So being down 1.5 or 1 to 1.5% for us was actually strong performance in the context of our portfolio and in the context of the peer group that we benchmark ourselves against. We do that internally.
I think the theme of the month, I mean, the US dollar reversal and gold's reversal, though, I mean, I think this is a good point. Those were right at the end of the month, right? We had the FOMC meeting the last week of July, or last week. And that, and, there was a 40% chance expectation that there was going to be a rate hike. There wasn't. I think that was negative on the dollar. You saw a little bit on the long end of the curve spiked. And so their interest rate spiked, so there was a bit of a tamper there. So I think that's what drove the dollar down. But that just happened, right? So I think that rally is happening kind of over month end. We're seeing, obviously, gold is up today on that basis. But the real theme, I mean, I probably the real theme of the month, and maybe why the commodities outperformed and the equities didn't, was volatility. It seemed like every 2 or 3 days we got a new headline on whether shooting had started or there was peace. Shooting had resumed, or peace talks. And so I think that on the Strait of Hormuz, and so I think we're seeing that volatility. Although what I would say, and say maybe you might be able to give a more succinct answer than I will, but it seems like the volatility impact of the Strait of Hormuz is declining, in the sense that the market's kind of getting tired of it. We're not seeing the long-term fundamentals change because of it. And so now you're seeing the impact of every successive news item seems to be into a tighter window of volatility.
Yeah, we've discussed this before, and it appears that the market has decided that instead of paying attention to the actual bombings and the messaging that goes back and forth, the market has understood that the situation is unsustainable for all parties involved. for Iran and for the US, both for different reasons. So the market expects this essentially the aggression to fade over time and the market to reorganize without any major disruptions. Having said that, refined products, for example, prices remain very high. The refining margins in the US are up, I think, fourfold over the averages. So it's a boom period for refiners. But yes, the equity risk premium attached to the Hormuz situation seems to be declining over time. And, we live in this perennial state of tomorrow, we're going to have this announcement, potential announcement of an agreement with Iran. Our view, or my view personally, is that there's going to be continued disappointments. I continue to see this as a situation that will continue to deteriorate over time. And we are investing accordingly in energy supplies and supply chains that are completely outside of that region of the world. I continue to think that the U.S. politically wants to be the main player in the oil and gas business globally, and the evidence suggests that they're trying to control all of the oil and gas choke points, maritime choke points around the world. So we continue to give that of that view and to invest accordingly.
I think that's the point. You know, one thing that we did in July, taking advantage of some of that volatility on the risk off days, because I guess our view and our thesis is that our long-term opinion on where things are going for commodities, oil and gas, and gold is unchanged. This is just volatility in between. And so when we take we take our long-term view and we look at our investment portfolio and what we're looking at, that means to us that on these days of negative volatility, where stocks are down, we're deploying capital. And so that's something that we did over the course of July. We've been stepping in and buying. We've been stepping in and buying stocks. I think that's been a productive trade from that perspective, and buying stocks on buying names that we really like on the lows. Maybe, Sam, as we look at what we're buying, you mentioned one. We've been chasing energy, for sure. Um, Both, and this is probably key. Obviously, oil and gas opportunities. That's the key to energy. But also, but adding to our uranium exposure as well. And then obviously copper and gold, I think, are the other two big areas where we're putting money to work.
Yeah. So in terms of new names, we've added names to the liquid portfolio on energy. We discussed before the junior oil market is not as deep as the junior mining industry is, and typically the producers seem to be the best way to play this. So we're participating in that space. But in terms of juniors, developers, and explorers, we've been adding exposure mainly to copper or base metals, uh, both in North America and Latin America. And we've continued to add to gold names that we already have in the portfolio, trying to bulk up smaller positions that now we think are kind of ready to continue to grow the scale and size. So we've talked about Prospector. You're going to see it on the press release that comes out tomorrow. Before the video will come after the press release, but Prospector is now one of our top 10 holdings. There's another name in the Yukon that we mentioned before that we continue to add as well, a weakness. So in terms of gold names, we don't have anything new to report, but we continue to believe that we already have in the portfolio the better names, and we've continued to add to them when we see a good opportunity. And frankly, July offered some interesting opportunities to add to that exposure.
It's one thing about the summer, and it's a more of a general theme, is that you get this liquidity tends to drop a little bit, and when liquidity dries up a little, especially, and that's actually like it's less pronounced in July. It is far more pronounced in August, especially you get the last weeks of August. And so what happens is you get one seller in a name where you have liquidity down, and all of a sudden you can see a stock drop 3, 5, 10% for no apparent reason. And those are things that we like to take advantage of. We saw it across the board, and we picking away at names there, and then we've got, and I think that there's Good. And the reason that you do it now, and Sam, I think this is maybe a, a good a good point to talk about. We we pay very obviously very close attention to seasonality on different parts of the trade, and so yes, July and August historically are a slower time. They tend not to be negative or positive, but they are definitely slower from a news flow and a volume perspective. Um, but I think if we look at the seasonality going forward from here to the end of the year, maybe talk about why taking advantage of some of these opportunities in August is so important.
I mean, it makes me think about last year we did an episode talking about trading in the summer, and we said you can go on holidays, but don't forget to look at your brokerage account. And the summer was the best part of last year. The strongest months for the commodity market were, I think, were July and August last year,
Mhm.
only to be surpassed by January this year, which was spectacular. Um, but typically, there's one major seasonal trend that goes from, call it, late November, early December, all the way till May. That's kind of like the brother one. There's two smaller ones, and this is one of the smaller ones where, you know, typically the summer slowdown and you have good opportunities to buy into names that you like. There's a lot of news flow that comes out in September and October from the summer programs that re-rate some of these stories. And then typically they have to refinance in the fall. So there is usually like a shorter kind of wave where if you accumulate positions in the months of July and August, you get a good opportunity to profit in September. And if you're a trader, you can get to reload again in Q4 when they refinance again for next year's programs. That's now a little bit more pervasive. It's not only for seasonal drillers; it's kind of permeated the entire market. So, even though Derek and I do actually take some time off in the summer, we never stop looking at the names that we like, and every time there is a dislocation, we we like to be there and pick up a few shares. It's also consistent with our view that when you like an investment, you don't just simply buy it once. Typically, we end up buying investments, two or three times over time until we get the position that we want to be in. And so these opportunities are good to continue to increase the weighting at great prices.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Well, I mean, we might trade around the edges on positions, especially if you get some really volatile spikes, kind of like we saw in January this year. But we generally don't. One of the things that we think is important when we build our portfolio and when we invest is entry point. Sometimes you can't choose your exit point, but you can always choose your entry point. And so that's something that just as important as the seasonally strong periods are for making sure that you take profits and take a look at opportunities. The seasonally weak periods are really important for adding because people will hand you stock. There's names. There was a name that we were buying last week. But I don't think we bought a huge amount, but certainly bought some Canex or earlier this week, I guess. Last week or earlier this week, one of those two. We bought some Canex. That one is a name that we've owned for a while. We've just been in financing a while ago. They've gone through this big proxy battle merger. We've been looking. That's a stock where we've been kind of waiting for those weak opportunities to pick up stock. Stock traded down below 20, which had been kind of heavy resistance for a while. We were able to pick up some more stock. There's certainly other, and then we're seeing that in other places as well. The long term thesis isn't changing in the doldrums of August, but the buying opportunities or the price that you can enter at is, and so that's where that's kind of one of the things that we certainly look for. It's a bit of a shorter episode for us. Um, you know, Markets are where they are. Not a lot happening, but a lot of opportunity. And so, as we get into the sort of the end of August and early September, you're going to have a pickup in news flow in September. Very rarely do guys put up drill results sort of last 2 weeks of August, just because that's when a lot of people take vacation. And then so you new pickup in news flow. And so there's some things that you need to, what I like to do in August, besides go on holidays uh, is is I like to kind of sit down and look at catalysts that are coming, right? If so, whether it's if we look at, as an example off the top of my head, you look at Prospector, we're looking for drill results on Prospector, right? And so that, probably in early September, we'll get some drill results, start to get some drill results from Prospector. And I think that'll be a catalyst for the stock. And so I think maybe in the next episodes, or the next episode, we'll look at some of our portfolio, the catalysts that we think are coming in the fall, and how we're positioning ourselves for those events. And so, with that, we'll wrap up this week's Compass. Thanks for tuning in, and if there's anything particular you want us to talk about, feel free to reach out. We're pretty easy to find.